You ever hear someone speak and it sounds like chaos at first? Like the words are jumping over each other, stories tangled up, names flying everywhere. But then you stop, you listen, and suddenly you realize you ain't just hearing noise. You hearing trauma trying to fight its way out. That's what it was like when Ally Carter first went live. She wasn't polished, she wasn't media trained, she didn't have a lawyer in her corner or a script in her hand. What she had was pain, raw, disjointed, overflowing, and for a while the world didn't know what to do with her. They laughed. They called her crazy, said she was making it all up. But when I watched those videos, really watched, I didn't see a liar. I saw a girl who'd been through too much, way too young, trying to make sense of her own story in real time. While the world threw tomatoes from the comment section, Ally started dropping names, big names, Hollywood stars, music moguls, politicians, and most people instantly tuned out, said, "That's too wild to be true." But here's what they missed. It's not about whether the names are true. It's about why a young woman would feel the need to scream them. What kind of light, what kind of fear makes you point fingers at the most powerful people in the world? That's not clout chasing. That's desperation. Ally says she was trafficked, abused, passed around by people who wore designer shoes and smiled on magazine covers. She said she ran, hid, got found, got threatened. She said people in power tried to erase her, not just her voice, her entire existence. She posted videos from cars, from bathrooms, from safe houses, cameras shaking, words tumbling. But in her eyes, you could see it. That look of someone who'd been through fire and never got a moment to heal. And slowly, people started connecting the dots. Because while the media mocked her, some of her details started lining up with other stories, other survivors, other testimonies, other whispers. She knew things she shouldn't have known. She recognized people she shouldn't have met. And still, she didn't get protection. She didn't get justice. She got silence. She got labels. She got ignored because Ally wasn't convenient. She didn't fit the neat victim package. She was messy, loud, angry, emotional, real, and that made her dangerous to the people who profit from pain. But let me tell you what makes Ally Carter unforgettable. She kept talking, even when they flagged her videos, even when strangers told her to shut up. Even when her own family tried to distance themselves, she kept showing up, kept saying names, kept surviving. And the more I watched, the more I realized she ain't just a witness. She's a warning to every person who thinks this industry is only about music, money, and fame, because behind the curtains, there's girls like Ally, invisible, disposable, broken, but not beaten. It was supposed to be just another scroll on the timeline. Somebody's going live. No press, no setup, no lighting, just Ollie. Phone in hand, voice shaking, breathing heavy like she just run from something or was still running. And from the first few words, you could tell this wasn't for clout. This was survival on camera. She started talking fast, really fast. Words stacking on top of each other like she was trying to outrun the thoughts spilling out her head. She said she'd been trafficked, said she escaped, said she was subpoenaed to testify against Diddy, and that now she was in danger. Some folks clicked out. Too chaotic, too much. But the ones who stayed, they saw something different. A young woman unraveling, not because she was unstable, but because the truth she was carrying was too heavy for one person. She started naming names, not one, not two, dozens, celebrities, executives, influencers, people whose faces are in your playlist and on your TV screen. She said they were all part of something bigger, something dark, organized, hidden in plain sight. She mentioned underground tunnels, private jets, elite parties where girls like her weren't a guest, they were property. And yo, I know how that sounds. It sounds wild, too wild. And that's why so many people tuned it out, because it's easier to call somebody crazy than to face the possibility that they're right. But here's what you gotta understand. Even in all the chaos, there was clarity. Allie wasn't making up pain. You could see it in her eyes, in her hands, in the way her voice cracked when she said, "I was 13 when they took me."
I was put into foster care at 13 after my time in the hospital. I thought that everything would calm down from there. I thought everything would be okay. I thought it was going to change, and I was going to be able to go to school and everything would be fine. And that was not the case either. I thought that I was getting into things on my own sometimes. Like I said, people were strategically placed in my life that I never knew who they were. People would walk up to me and say, "Oh my gosh, you look so beautiful all grown up." And weird things like that I don't know who they are. I don't have a picture of me as a child. I don't know who certain people are or who most people are.
She wasn't reading from a script. She wasn't promoting nothing. She wasn't even asking for money. She was asking to be heard. And then she said something that stuck with me to this day. "If anything happens to me, it's because I told the truth." That right there, that's not performance. That's a will, a confession and a goodbye wrapped into one. She went live not to go viral, but because she thought she might not live. And what happened next? The internet blew up. Some people rushed to support her. "We believe you, Allie." Others mocked her, cut clips, made jokes, called her schizophrenic. But nobody could deny one thing. She had the world's attention. And for a brief moment, the silence cracked. For the first time, someone on the inside, someone with nothing left to lose, had pointed at the music industry and screamed, "It's not what you think." And no matter how messy the message came through, the message was received. So let's set the record straight. Was Allie Carter emotional? Yes. Was her story messy? Absolutely. But here's the problem with how the world listened. They focused on how she spoke, not what she said. See, if you only watch Allie for the first 30 seconds, you might miss the gems. But if you actually pay attention, you start to notice patterns, facts, evidence. Let me show you what I mean. 1. The subpoena. Mention Allie said she was subpoenaed to testify against Diddy. People laughed, called it fake, said she was making it up. But guess what? A week later, we find out multiple sealed witness subpoenas had already been issued in the federal case. Feds was moving quiet, but Allie somehow already knew? That don't sound crazy. That sounds plugged in. 2. The timing of her disappearance. Right after she went live, started exposing names, she vanished. Radio silence, social media gone, family saying, "We don't know where she is." Now think about that. If she really was lying, why go ghost right when the attention hit? People chasing clout don't run, they double down. But people in danger, they disappear. 3. The specifics. She mentioned underground tunnels, people being passed around, and secret flights. Sound wild? Sure. Until you remember. Other survivors, unrelated to Allie, said similar things. Former assistants, ex-staff, models, all said they were flown out, dropped off at mansions, told to dress a certain way, take something, do something, and forget it happened. Same themes, different voices, no connection. So how is Allie just making this up and accidentally matching survivor stories across the board? She even described houses, mansions in the hills, townhouses in New York, places people said didn't exist. But Google Maps proved her right. One girl went back and said, "I didn't believe her at first. Then I drove by the spot she described in LA and it was exactly how she said it. That ain't luck. That's a memory." 4th, her fear of being watched. Allie said on camera, "They follow me, they track me, they know where I am." Again, people called it paranoia, but days later she mentioned a specific car that had circled her neighborhood. Then someone else, not Ali, posted a photo of that exact car parked down the street 2 blocks from where Ali was last seen. Same make, same color, same partial plates. How does a crazy girl guess that? 5. The things she said that later got confirmed by others. She mentioned specific names, some we won't say just yet, that people said were too famous to ever be involved. Then bam, weeks later those same names show up in lawsuits, in documents, in sealed testimony. Ali might have shouted too much, but she wasn't shouting nothing. And let's not forget the biggest one of all. She was scared. You can fake a lot on the internet, but you can't fake fear. You can see it in her eyes, in the way her hands shook, in the way her voice cracked when she said, "I'm not safe." Because deep down, she knew she wasn't just telling on one man, she was telling on an entire machine. And that machine wanted her gone. One day, she was everywhere. Your timeline, your TikTok, your Instagram feed, Ali Carter screaming names, exposing secrets, bouncing from safe house to safe house, phone in hand, eyes darting, breathing heavy, shouting into the phone like it was her only lifeline. And then gone, no goodbye, no I'm taking a break, no fade out, just silence. At first, people thought she just logged off, but the days passed, and the silence got too loud. Her followers started asking, "Where's Ali? Why ain't she posting? Did something happen?" And that's when the rumors started. Some said she got snatched. Others said she got locked up. A few whispered she was dead. Her family came out and said she was okay. But they looked uncomfortable. They ain't give no details, no video, no proof, just a statement, dry, cold, and incomplete. And the people who knew Ali best, they ain't believe it. One of her close friends went live and said, "I don't care what they say. I ain't seen her. That's not like her. Something ain't right." Then came the video. You know the one. That awkward, scripted feeling clip where Ali sat next to her mom, barely blinking, barely breathing. She said she was okay, that she was resting, that she wasn't going to talk about certain things anymore. But yo, that ain't the Ali we knew. That wasn't the girl who screamed into the internet like her life depended on it. That wasn't the girl who said, "If anything happens to me, it's because I told the truth." In that video, she looked like she'd seen hell and had been told to smile about it. People started breaking it down frame by frame. She blinked too much. She looked off camera like someone was watching. She wasn't speaking in her real voice. And maybe that's reaching. Maybe it's paranoia, but maybe it's instinct. Because when someone talks like Ali did, nonstop, 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 and then just vanishes, that's not peace. That's not getting help. That's not recovery. That's containment. And here's what matters most. It's not just about where Ali is. It's about why she disappeared. Because if someone with nothing to gain but everything to say gets silenced this fast, what does that tell us about the machine she was screaming about? What does that say about how real it really was? It says, maybe she got too close. Maybe she said too much. Maybe they couldn't shut her up. So they shut her down. And the media didn't ask questions, didn't push, didn't protect her. They moved on. And in that silence, the truth got buried, but it didn't die, because real ones, we ain't forget. And now we digging it back up. Ali didn't just say she was trafficked. She didn't just say celebrities hurt her. She said children were being taken by the system. And that's where her story went from conspiracy to consequence. Because when she started naming CPS, Child Protective Services, not as protectors, but as recruiters, that's when people really got scared. See, most folks want to believe CPS is there to help, to remove kids from bad homes, to rescue the abused, to place children where they'll be safe. But Ali said straight up, CPS is how they get us. She said it wasn't strangers in vans, it was caseworkers. It was family court. It was foster placements. And she wasn't alone. Other survivors, women from different states, different backgrounds, started popping up saying the same thing. They took me after CPS got involved. My mom lost custody and I never saw her again. I was placed with people who hurt me on purpose. Allie says she watched it happen. Says she knew girls who got pulled out of classrooms by CPS workers and never came back. She says she was one of them. She described group homes that were fronts, places where girls got trained, conditioned, broken, where kids didn't get adopted, they got passed around. She said some kids never even made it to the system. They got funneled straight into it through backroom deals, sealed files, fake paperwork, and the worst part, nobody looked for them. No Amber Alert, no press conference, no viral hashtags. Just vanished like they never existed. And if you think she's reaching, go look at the numbers. Over 400,000 kids in the U.S. are in the foster system. Thousands go missing every year and barely make local news. Why? Because once a child is in state custody, they're property of the state, not family, not community, the state. And Allie said that's the loophole. She claimed the traffickers ain't need to kidnap no more. They just needed access. And once they had friends in CPS, judges, social workers, it was legal. One missing child report, one signature, gone. She even said she tried to help get some of them out. She mentioned the names, girls still missing. She said some had been in underground tunnels, others taken out the country. And the scariest part, she said it so calmly, not because she didn't care, but because she'd seen it too often. And she warned, if you speak up, they'll say you're crazy. They'll take your kids. They'll erase your records. You'll stop existing too. And that's when I realized Allie wasn't just telling her story. She was telling their story. The ones who never made it to TikTok. The ones with no followers, no live streams, just silence. The ones they already erased. When Allie first went live, it was chaos. She was talking fast, jumping from Diddy to CPS to Beyonce to tunnels to missing kids to blood sacrifices. People said she bugging. That don't even make sense. But the thing is, it does. Just not in a way the average person wants to accept. Because if you stop trying to follow it like a clean story and start looking at it like a puzzle, you'll see the pattern.
I've been drowning in my PTSD. I can't sleep. When you know the truth and when you understand what we're talking about, you won't be able to sleep either. When you understand that there's a child being trafficked, brutalized, raped, tortured right now as we speak, you won't be able to sleep either. When you realize how much your government is lying to you about, everything is in your face and some of it you've enabled, you won't be able to sleep. Something happened. I don't know what happened. I was down there for a while. There's certain people that you don't talk about because you just don't. There were certain people that I seen down there, from Beyonce, Jay-Z.
Let me break it down. 1. She always came back to 3 main themes. No matter how wild she got, Allie always circled back to child trafficking, elite cover-ups, women being used, silenced, and discarded. Those 3 things ain't scattered. They're connected. Every name she dropped, every story, linked back to those same themes. 2. She mentioned the same locations repeatedly. Go back and watch her videos. She keeps mentioning the Playboy Mansion, certain hotels in New York and Miami, and a few houses in the hills with underground tunnels. At first, folks called it fantasy, but then other survivors, ones who ain't know Allie at all, started saying the same places, the same mansions, the same parties, the same names. That's not coincidence. That's a pattern. 3rd, her timeline matches court rumors. Remember when she said she was subpoenaed? People laughed. But weeks later, sealed witness testimony began leaking around Diddy's federal case, and a few things started aligning: the timing of her live, the pause in her social media, rumors that one key witness vanished before trial. And who vanished right after her subpoena claim? Ali. 4. She described behavioral tactics used in real trafficking cases. Ali talked about being drugged before events, forced to call handlers daddy, threatened with violence or being sent to the basement, isolated from other girls to prevent talking. These ain't fantasies. These are documented tactics used by traffickers all over the world. She wasn't speaking in metaphors. She was reliving it. 5. She repeated the same names over and over. She wasn't throwing darts at random. She kept saying Diddy, DJ Khaled, Beyonce, Jay-Z, Rick Ross, Oprah, CPS workers, foster care names, judges. Even when she got lost in her emotion, she circled back to the same people of power. Some of them were sued later. Some showed up in court documents. Some been silent ever since. Ask yourself, if she's just making stuff up, why did some of those people lawyer up the second her video went viral? Why'd others go completely ghost? 6. She talked like she'd seen the machine work from the inside. Ali didn't describe the industry like a fan. She described it like a prisoner. She spoke about what people wear, how they signal each other, the roles women play at parties, the VIP codes, the handlers, the scouts. That ain't TikTok theory. That's firsthand knowledge. And here's the coldest pattern of all. Everything Ali said the first time, she repeated later, almost exactly the same, even with new videos, even with time passed. She never changed her story. Messy or not, she was consistent. And in cases like this, that consistency is evidence because liars get sloppy. But trauma remembers, even when it shakes, even when it stutters, even when it breaks mid-sentence. Picture this. The courtroom is packed. The press is on high alert. The air is thick with tension and secrets, and names are being read out. Cassie, Kimora, Kid Cudi, the assistants, the stylists, the bodyguards. But there's one name you don't hear. Ali Carter, not on the witness list, not mentioned in opening arguments, not brought up by prosecution or defense. And yet, her name was on everybody's mind, even the ones pretending they ain't know it. Because outside the courthouse, her voice had already gone viral. Her claims had already pierced the internet. She had already said, I was subpoenaed to testify against Diddy. They're trying to erase me. I know what they did to those girls. And then she disappeared. No courtroom appearance, no official testimony, just gone. Now ask yourself, why? Why wouldn't the government use the one girl who named more names, more locations, more patterns than anyone else? Why wouldn't they put her on the stand? And here's the realest answer. Because she was too dangerous, not just to Diddy, to everybody, to the system itself. Because if Ali sat in that witness chair, it wouldn't have just been a case about one man and his crimes. It would have pulled back the curtain on an entire machine, one that connects entertainment, child services, the legal system, elite parties, organized trafficking. And if she connected those dots in a federal courtroom, it wouldn't be a trial anymore. It'd be a revolution. So instead, they pushed her aside, painted her as unstable, let the public turn her into a meme, let her live stream fall under crazy girl on the internet energy. But what if that was the plan? What if the point was to discredit her before she ever reached that courtroom door? Because here's the truth, Ali wasn't just a victim. She was a witness to the whole ecosystem. And unlike some of the other survivors, she had nothing to lose. No label deal, no modeling contract, no publicist to protect. Just pain and a phone with a signal. She was dangerous not because she lied, but because she might have been the only one telling it all. And deep down, the court knew it, the prosecution knew it. Diddy's lawyers definitely knew it. That's why she was never called. That's why her name never hit a file. Because if Ali Carter sat on that stand, she wouldn't just expose Diddy, she'd expose everyone who helped him. And that's not justice, that's war. Let's ask the obvious question. Why ain't a single A-list celebrity spoken Ali Carter's name? Not to defend her, not to deny her, not to say anything. People who post about every trending moment, people who quote protect black women when the camera's on, suddenly got nothing to say. Why? Because Ali Carter wasn't just shouting into the void. She was pointing directly at them. And they don't want that smoke. See, when a random troll accuses a celeb of something, they sue. Fast, public, loud. But Ali, she's dropped some of the biggest names in the world. And what's their response? Silence. Why? Because if they respond, they legitimize her. They confirm she's worth addressing. They risk opening doors that were supposed to stay locked. So they stay silent, and the ones who knew her personally, the ones who maybe met her at those industry events, they extra quiet. Because they ain't just protecting careers, they protecting freedom. And the industry, it knows. It knows this ain't just a girl screaming for attention. They watched the live streams, they read the transcripts, they recognized the language, the setups, the signals, the parties she described. Because that world, it's real. And it's been running on secrets for decades. And Ali, she broke the code. She said the names you're not supposed to say. She described the things you're not supposed to remember. She refused to die quietly. And now, the entertainment industry is acting like she doesn't exist. But here's the truth. Their silence is proof. Because if she was truly crazy, truly delusional, they'd clown her, discredit her, take legal action, use her as a lesson, but instead, they pretend she ain't there. Because to acknowledge her is to admit she's too close to the truth. And the industry don't want no smoke with truth. Not from Ali Carter, not from anyone who lived it.
There's an arrest coming. There's actually 2 arrests that are already made. There's a 3rd one coming. I don't know why people are sitting on this. I'm ready. I see that some people are not. I've been ready. A lot of you are ready. Like, let's get this over with.
Let's talk about what really matters. Because this ain't just about Diddy. Ain't just about celebrities. Ain't just about viral live streams or conspiracy threads. It's about the girls we never see. The ones still stuck in the same system Ali was screaming about. The ones whose names we don't know. Because they don't got a phone. They don't got a TikTok. They don't got nobody listening. We get so caught up in the headlines, we forget about the ones still living that nightmare. Foster care, group homes, shelters, treatment centers, places that look like they're there to help. But in the dark, they're farms, factories, feeding grounds for the same kind of predators Ali was talking about. Ali said, they take you from your home, put you in a system, and then pass you around like property. That's not trauma talk. That's a blueprint. She exposed how it works. Take a girl from a bad home, claim she's being protected, place her somewhere with no oversight, introduce her to mentors, benefactors, but then sponsors, break her down, train her to stay quiet, move her to the next location before anyone asks too many questions. And the ones who try to escape, they disappear, they overdose, they get labeled unstable and thrown in psych facilities. Ali said it plain. They make you look crazy so nobody believes you when you tell the truth. And the sad part, it works. Because how do you explain pain that don't come with receipts? How do you prove trauma when the files are sealed? When CPS won't talk? When court dates disappear? When judges say case closed and walk out? Ali told us there's hundreds of girls just like me, maybe thousands. She wasn't exaggerating. The numbers back her up. Hundreds of thousands of kids enter the U.S. foster system every year. A huge percentage go missing and ain't nobody looking for them. And now that Ali's gone silent, the ones still trapped got even less hope. Because if she couldn't break through, who will? That's why her story matters. Because it's not just about justice. It's about prevention. It's about opening our eyes. to what's happening in plain sight, because every day we don't listen, another girl gets erased, another voice gets muted, another alley disappears, and the monsters, the hashtags faded, the clips stopped going viral, the timelines went quiet. And just like that, the world moved on. Diddy's legal team got quiet too. Cassie's name stopped trending. The industry, back to business. People went back to their playlists, back to their influencers, back to pretending this never happened. And Allie, she's still gone. No live streams, no new updates. Just a girl who screamed into the void, and he got buried in silence. But me, Uncle Mike's still here, because when I sat in that courtroom, when I watched those testimonies, when I heard her voice crack over that phone screen, I knew one thing for sure. That girl ain't crazy. She was screaming for her life, and the world chose to look away. They always do. That's the game. If you clean, if you quiet, if your trauma comes gift wrapped in a lawyer approved statement, the world might care for a second. But if you're raw, if you're real, if you bleed in public and name names and point fingers, they disappear you. And that's what happened to Allie. They didn't kill her body, they killed her credibility. They killed her voice. But see, I ain't built like that. I'm not here to be liked. I'm not here to play industry politics. I'm here for the truth. And whether it's messy, loud, or uncomfortable, I don't care. I'm gonna say it anyway. Because Ali's story ain't over. As long as kids still vanish from the system, as long as celebrities still hide behind money, as long as people keep pretending they don't know what's going on, I'm gonna talk loud, clear, unbought, unbroken. So yeah, let the world move on. Let them spin their records. Let them smile on red carpets. Let them tweet about nonsense. But over here, we remember, we watching, we connecting dots, we speaking names. Because Allie Carter, she ain't just a victim. She's a truth bomb they couldn't contain. In this channel, this movement, these words, they're for her. And for every other girl like her, the world chose to forget.